Hello everyone, welcome. I'm Adam. Welcome to a discussion on films, why I enjoy watching them, why they're so important to me, and in part two of this video, a format that I prefer to watch. So if you don't want to hear why films are important to me, you can skip straight away to the second video. But why are films so important to me? Well, I really, like I said, enjoy watching films, but for me, what they mean to me is they're almost like a mental holiday for the mind. You know, you can, no matter what your stresses in life, no matter what your responsibilities, your anxieties, your depressions, you can sit down and watch a film and lose yourself and go on like a mental holiday. You know, it's escapism is what it is. And for me, I feel that is so important to the psychology of being content and being like happy, is to have this escapism every now and again from your everyday life, and just enjoy, you know, getting lost in a really good film. And for me, I think it also helps you to empathize with other people. It helps you, you know, expand your knowledge and your awareness of other cultures, if it's like a documentary type of film. And it's just pure fun and entertainment, and everyone's got such like a wide degree of, say, likes and dislikes, and there is such a wide degree of films out there. There is literally something for everybody to be able to do this. I feel it's so detrimental to humanity to enjoy this escapism from your everyday life, and movies is one great way to do that because they're so immersive. For me, the best way to watch a motion picture film is at the cinema. You know, you can't beat a picture when it's 2 stories high, you know, and when you have sound coming from speakers that are all around you. And it really does help to immerse you into that film and draw you into the story, no matter what the content. It's more of an experience. I always say that you watch a film at home, but you feel the film at the cinema. And I think it's so true. You, especially when you're in a community of people as well, all going on the same emotional journey as you, you know, the highs, the lows, you're sharing this emotional experience. You connect with a film so much more at the cinema. And I think like that is kind of my way preferred to watch a film, but not so much these days. I realise, getting into my older years, that it's the format of the film, you know, that actually, the transport system of the film that actually I'm connecting with, and not so much the film, because I go to films in the cinema these days and I don't have that same connection. I mean, maybe it is a little bit of the films, but you know, I don't have that same warmth and that same feeling like I did back when I was younger, and it was all on actual film reels. Now it's all digital projection, you know. I remember my first film, in fact, was at my local Odeon, and we lived in America at the time, but we came back for 6 months in 1985, and my mom took me and my sisters to go watch Back to the Future at the local Odeon, where my grandmother had worked and managed back in the 60s and 70s, and in the 80s and the 90s, where my cousin was working. In fact, he came up behind us and jokingly was like, "Hey kid, get your feet off the seats," you know. But I remember, you know, sitting in screen one and hearing the subtle tick 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 of the movie beginning, and blackness, and then suddenly the big vibrant logo of Back to the Future comes on. Like, I'll never forget that experience. That is the first time I remember going to the cinema. If my mom took me before that, I don't remember it. And I really had an appreciation of, you know, the dark auditorium, the surrounds. I mean, Back to the Future, back in the 80s, it was just Dolby Stereo at the time. That was matrixed into kind of like a fake surround, but it still had an impact on me. But the second film I remember seeing at the cinema was back in Texas, down in Austin, at the local multiplex in 1989, where my stepdad took me and my sisters to go watch Tim Burton's Batman. And that had the most profound effect of any film at the cinema ever on me. We were about maybe 40 minutes into the film. It's where Batman is crashing through the museum to save Vicky Vale from the Joker. And all of a sudden, this warbling effect came over, like marble effect came over the screen, and at first I thought it was part of the movie, and then everything went silent. The picture cut out. The sort of really slow lighting went down completely, and the sound was off, and I realized something was happening, and there was a thunderstorm in the area, and lightning had struck the cinema. And so obviously we all left. I didn't get to see the rest of the film. My stepdad got a refund and found out that when the lightning had struck the cinema, it must have blown the lamp on the projector and melted the film of that particular scene. And so they couldn't actually play that film or that particular scene in the film like from now on. Like they obviously probably got a replacement copy or something, or just cut it out completely and just skipped to the next scene, maybe, I don't know. But to me, that had such, like, I thought about that on the night time going home, thinking, hang on a second, so a lamp, that means there's a bulb, you know, that means, so light is shining through something that is hitting and then projecting onto the screen. Like, because up until that point, I was like 6 or 7 at the time. I think, well, in 1989, I was 12. But up to that point, I had accepted that when you go to the cinema and you see it on the big screen, that you just see it on the big screen, and that you have no indication or no idea that there is a projector booth up there shining a bright light onto the screen. You're just totally unaware of it at that age. And I was just like, so the film is being thrown onto the screen using the medium of light as a transport system. So light was throwing the film onto the screen, and I was amazed by that. Like, you can put things on light for it to travel. Like, obviously, you know, you've got a flashlight in the darkness, and it just shows you what's there because it's a bright white light. But I didn't realize that you could use light as a transport system to beam, you know, things across, and it blew my mind. I had a much bigger appreciation of the movies when I realized what 35mm film was. And from that point on, I was hooked. And it wasn't until like 5 months later that I actually got to see the rest of the Batman film, because I think we saw it in like May or June in Texas of 1989, but it didn't come out till like September, October, I think, in the UK. So I had to wait like 4 months, 5 months before I could continue watching the 1989 Batman film that I'd seen like half of it months prior, but the UK had only just gotten. And like that as well, like that system of, you know, the release dates were staggered across the world, mainly down to the fact that you're using print as a medium. And so they'd strike so many prints for America, but those same prints would be shipped to the UK for a release like 3 months later. And when it's finished its run in the cinema. Because I can imagine they probably didn't strike that many prints for Batman, thinking it might not do so well, but then it blew up huge. So yeah, the process of distributing movies back in the day was very different to what it is now. You have global release dates where the cinema downloads the film from a server like a week before the release date, and then is given a code like 2 days before the release date, but it's still locked out until play until the day of release. And like, it's so different now compared to dealing with these massive reels that would be shipped through FedEx or DHL or whatever, and have to be, you know, taken to the cinema. You know, these massive, well, they weren't massive reels that were sent to the cinema, they were about that big. And there'd be like 15 of them. But then the projectionist would have to sit there cutting into each reel to make a larger platter that then would go on to the projector. And it was just a completely different system back then. But for me, the cinema is the best way to view a film. I've got some great memories of the cinema. And from 1992 onwards, I went to the cinema every single week to see every major film that was released between 1990, I'd say, and, well, 1992 properly, and 1999. That was kind of like the last time I went to the cinema, and I remember I went to see Phantom Menace with my sister and her then boyfriend, and that was like the last film I saw at the cinema until 2015. Like, well, maybe there was a couple that I went to go see in between that time, but I don't really remember it. But yeah, avid cinema goer because I loved it. And of course, if you love something that much, you want to bring it into the home. And so when I was like, what, 12, 13, and I'd go see, like, watch Bram Stoker's Dracula at the cinema, I was like, yeah, I want to have that at home. Because, like, VHS had just come out in the 80s. I don't know what it was like in the UK when it properly came out, but in America, in America, it came out in like late 70s, and we had a VHS player in America, but we'd only ever rent films. We never actually bought to keep films. It was more of a big thing to rent the film, because the VHS recorder was more of a recordable device for when you're not at home, more than a create a massive library, for me at least anyway, as like a 6-year-old, 7-year-old. And even coming back in the UK, we didn't get a VHS recorder until like 1994, 1993 or something like that. It must have been 1993 actually, because Jurassic Park. So yeah, before 1993 though, like from the time of 1989 to 1993, I would be buying VHSs. I would be buying movies on VHS because I still wanted to watch that film again that I remember so clearly from the cinema. Like, I've got a great memory of every film I've seen at the cinema, what exactly it looked like, and I wanted to replicate that at home, you know, as like a 13-year-old, 14-year-old with no money, you know, just the pocket money. So I'd save it up doing papered round jobs or whatever I could scrape together, and then I'd go buy a VHS film, you know. And obviously, you know, I was buying PGs, I was buying U's, I wasn't really buying 15s and 18s. And in all honesty, I found some ingenious ways to increase my collection, which I'll get to in a second. But my sisters used to rag on me like, "What, Adam, why are you buying films that you can't watch?" And it's like, because one day we'll have a VHS player, and then we'll have a library of films to watch. And obviously that day did come in 1993. My mom bought us the VHS player, I think it was, or my uncle bought us the VHS player, and we had a few, like, 10 tapes to watch by then. And in fact, I'm going to tell you a really embarrassing story about me in a bit, so stay tuned for that. But there were a few tricks I used to do, because obviously as a 14, 15-year-old, I don't have a proper job. I'm on like a paper round, or I'm working at a greengrocer's, actually, I remember, earning like £10 or something a week. So save it up for the month, and I got the ability to like buy a couple of films, because back then VHSs were like £15 to £20 each, brand new. And when widescreen came out, they were like £30, £40 sometimes, you know. And it's like sometimes they were in a limited set for like 50 quid. Pretty expensive when I look back at it, what VHS actually looked like, you know. What we put up with is like mind-boggling, but we didn't know any better. So I would save up my money and I would buy new films, but I'm like, it's happening too slow. So I remember I used to buy the Empire magazine. I wish I had one to hand to show you, but I'll put it up here. I used to buy the Empire magazine every single month, and inside there would be like adverts, and I recognized one for Laserdisc, but also for a Britannica film club. And I think in America it was the Columbia House, where basically you'd have a little booklet inside the magazine as a, you know, sales trash ad, and inside that booklet it would be a whole selection of films, and it would say, choose any 5 films but only pay for 2, you know, and then commit yourself to buy 1 film every month for 2 years after that. And I was like, so hang on a second, I'm paying you like 20, I think it was £25 you paid, and get 5 films. I was like, that's a no-brainer. 5 films for £25. That's like getting 3 films free. 3 or 4 films. So I was like, I'm doing that. But it was like, you have to be 18. So I was like, Mom, can I put this in your name? And at first she was like, you better be paying this. And, you know, yes, I will. I promise. And so she put it in her name to begin with. And then So I sent it off, got the 5 films, way hey, and then a couple of months after I had to then buy more. I did it for like 2 months, but then I'm like, I'm committed here, and I'm like, I don't want this. So I actually contacted them, and this is one of the 2 embarrassing stories that I'm about to tell. I contacted them to say that my mom had passed away and that she'd be no longer able to pay for this subscription that she'd gotten into. And they said, like, okay, fine, no worries. They never asked for the tapes back. I was like, I just got 4 free films or something. And I'm like, so got another, like, next time I saw the ad in the magazine, write out a slip again, put my sister's name down. Don't tell her though, and send it off. There's another 4 free films coming my way. I pay for 2, and they send me like 3 more for free. And then I'd keep it going after for a couple of more months. And then once it starts to become a ball ache, contact them. Sister's passed away. She can't pay for this anymore. And then I'd put it in my name, but this time I actually kept it. I kept the subscription. So I was able to amass like almost like 30, 40 films in a short space of time, and half of them would be free. So I can't believe I used to do that. But that's not the most embarrassing story that I'm about to tell you about me and films. There is one more. It's coming later on though. So yeah, I used to, but there were other tricks I used to do as well. So I wanted to, like, again, working at a greengrocer's, I'm like 16. I haven't got like a proper job yet where I'm earning a decent wage. So I want to keep current of the latest blockbusters coming out that I've seen in the cinema. But you've only got so much money. So sometimes I used to look at my film collection, and a lot of them, when I first started collecting them, or when I first started getting them, were in pan and scan, that old scabby, and I wanted widescreen because that's what I saw at the cinema. So when it then got reissued in widescreen, I would take my pan and scan copy, which used to cost like less. Well, at the time of purchasing it, it was almost the same as widescreen, but then it went down in price as widescreen sort of came out around 94, 95, I think. So I'd clock a film that had just been released, say Demolition Man, and it was like $18.99, brand new. So I'd go, what did I spend this on? And I'd remember and go, right, this was about 20 quid. So I would put it in the best case I could find, really make sure it was rewound, and making it look like brand new. And I'd then take it down to either HMV or Our Price, which is where I bought all my films from, and I'd say, hi. Mom bought this for my birthday, and I already own it. So I was wondering if I could exchange it for a film that I don't have that I like, please. And 9 out of 10 times they would say, yeah, sure, kid, no problem. And they would take that one, and then I could go get another one. And I used to swap out like at least every month. I'm the mom that I'd killed off earlier, she bought this for my birthday. Like, it's so embarrassing. But again, not the most embarrassing story. The most embarrassing story. So we're fast forwarding a few years. It must have been 1999. Okay, so I'll talk about this now because we're in like the VHS era. Aliens, right? Alien 4 had just come out in 1998, I believe, or 97, and in either 98 or 99, they brought out this box set. I'll have to find a picture. It was a box set of 5 VHS tapes, I believe. It had the films 1, 2, and 3, and 4 in it, and then a 5th tape for like a documentary. Or it might have been 1, 2, and 3 with a making of 4. It might have been that. Either way, I really wanted it, but the box set was like an 18, I think, or a 15 certificate. And me at the time, well, I must have been turning like 18 or 19 myself, and the box set was like 60, 70 quid. And I'm like, I haven't got that much money. I had a job, I think. Can I remember where I was working? I know where I was working. Yeah, I think I was managing a photograph studio at the time. So, but no, actually, no, this was before that. So I don't actually think I think I might have been in between jobs at this point. Anyway, I knew I couldn't afford it. I can't believe I'm about to tell this story. It is the most embarrassing story that I have, and that I can't believe I'm about to share it with the world. So I really wanted it, okay? Anyway, I happened across, and I don't know where I found it. I want to show, like, I want to use something as here. I'll use my own card. So I happened, in fact, I'll use my co-op card. I happened across to find like a credit card. It was like lying on the floor. It was still in date, and I was like, "Ooh, yeah." Now, back in the day of this day, there was no like use your thumbprint, no use your retina scan, no just tap the card to pay for your items. There'd be a signature on the back, and when you go up to purchase, you know, they'd have this machine like this, right? They'd put your card in with a slip of paper and go like that, and keep a copy for themselves, and they'd give you a copy, and then they'd watch you sign on the copy for them and try and match it with the card. And that is exactly the authorization that was only needed. There was no PIN numbers in devices. It was all this mechanical thing. So I thought, a credit card should be able to afford this, you know. I didn't actually see the name on the card. I will say it now. I didn't see the name on the card. I just looked at the back for the signature and spent a day trying to forge it, right? So I go up to the counter, right? Go to the counter, and I've got the box set here, put it on the desk. Again, I'm about 18 or 19 years old, something like that, maybe even 17, right? And the woman looks at me and she says, how will you be paying? And I said, I'll be paying by card. She goes, how old are you? And I told her my age. I was legitimately old enough to buy it, okay? That wasn't the issue. So she says, right, that would be like, I think it was like 79, 95 at the time. So I go, here you go, right? She gets it, does a double take on it, looks at it. You're a doctor. It's a doctor's name on the card. I'm thinking, who am I? Doogie Howser, MD? I said, yep. I'm like, I didn't laugh, but I was like, yep. Oh, yep. She goes, 1 second. So she walks away, and I'm like, don't know if she's falling for this. I just need to sign it. She comes back and I said, I'm in a bit of a rush. I'm going to have to bust a catch. A doctor catching the bus. And she goes, yeah, it won't be a second. Is this your card? And I went, yep. She goes, yeah, I don't think it is. I don't think you're a doctor. I said, I am. She goes, yeah, I'm going to keep hold of this card, right? And I went, okay. And I just walked out because I thought, she's going to phone the police. I'll be arrested. I'll be thrown in prison for the rest of my life. So I walked away. And on the bus ride home, I was like looking over my shoulder. I'm like, they're following me. I was so paranoid. It was such a traumatic experience, and it was the last time I ever tried to forge anything in my life. Oh, my life, it was so funny looking back on it. And to be honest, looking back, if I'd have just kicked off and said, excuse me, that is my card, I'd like to pay, can I pay please? If I'd have just pushed it, she might have let it go, but obviously I wasn't. So that's my most embarrassing story. You all know now. And yeah, so VHS, that was the way I used to have a massive collection, you know, and sometimes not legitly, but yeah, I don't condone any type of piracy or stealing or anything like that. But yeah, obviously technology moved on, you know, before we got to the illegitimate, you know, looking through Empire magazine, I'd see these, and again, it must have been about 96, 97, I saw these ads for DVDs. What is DVD? Digital versatile disc. You know, 5 times sharper than VHS. And like, I don't know, it was like massive thing, but it was all in America. It hadn't hit the UK first. So I'd be looking at all these ads for, I think it was called something like US import, and it would have the films for like 50 quid to buy an imported film, but it hasn't hit the cinema yet in the UK. And I'm like, that's very desirable. But I haven't got a DVD player. And again, you flick over, import DVD players from America. Watch American films. Now, these imported players at the time were like $800 or $900, which was ludicrous for me. That works out about 650 quid. And even though I had a job now, I couldn't just bounce 650 down in one go. In fact, my first telly that I bought was on hire purchase. Big mistake. Never buy things on hire purchase. It was, though, a really nice telly. It was a Philips widescreen CRT with surround. So it had the two speakers here, if I can get myself right. Two speakers here with a center here. But the center speaker would be sitting literally attached to the TV itself, built in with it. So it tended to be really tinny. So I used to put a layer of socks underneath the center speaker to give it a bit more bass and warmth. And then you'd have these two satellite speakers, which were really crap. And I used to swap them out. This is all like living at home with my mom still. And I used to swap them out with the stereo speakers because they were better. And because it used the same wire, I would just wire up those speakers. So if I ever wanted to, watch something on the stereo, I couldn't. Like, I had to rewire the stereo speakers to get them back coming out. Because the TV they were wired up to, because I wanted to have the same experience at the cinema that I had at home. And my mom was really good for putting up with my film demands, as it were, as like a 15, 16-year-old kid. Now, when I was 18, I moved out straight away. Because it was living with three women. Not desirable as a 18-year-old, and so they're always yapping and arguing and hormones and whatever. But whatever, I left, and so now free to explore as much as I'd like. So getting a DVD player was easy, but of course now they were in the UK. You could buy a DVD player for like 500 quid. I think they were 400 quid when they first came out, and I was like, dropping like 400 quid in one go isn't something I could do. Maybe 250. And I saw then a player, Samsung. It had like a silver front on it, $249.95. And if I was like, I'm definitely getting that one. That's the one. I just need to get 250 quid now. So stupidly, I took my entire VHS collection, that was about 400 films strong, down to the local market where I'd buy all my video games and stuff, and said, all right, mate, I'm going to sell this whole thing. How much would you give me? And he went through, he looked at it, he says, give you 280 quid for it, mate. And I went, okay, thank you very much. That's all I need for the DVD player. 400 films for £280. That's like 60p a film. I got completely ripped off. But it's paid for my DVD player, so I'm on a winner, and I've got enough money left over for one film. Now, my player was a very interesting player because I found out later that it had faults with the films, something about Mary and the Matrix, where it wouldn't play them until you got the player chipped. Now, by the time I went, and the chipped was a legal thing, it was the manufacturer saying, go here, they will chip your player, because it was a fault at the time. But I had already found out by that time that if you bought a Pioneer remote of a certain hi-fi system, I think it was, you could key code your player and unlock it to be multi-region. And I was like, American DVDs. And I remember in 1999, I think it was, I bought The Mummy from America. Cost me 50 quid to get it over here, buy it and import it. It's so not worth it. But I was able to watch it before it hit the cinema in the UK. And I was just like, I've seen The Mummy, guys. I've got it at home. And they were all like, yeah, whatever, mate. You're just lying. And honestly, I was for like a few months, and then it came out in the UK, But then when this chip thing, when something about Mary and the Matrix film, and the player had to get chipped, it killed the multi-region facility Kiko did nothing after that. The Mummy was useless. I put it on my DVD shelf and never played it again. But I then started to collect a large array of DVDs, and enjoyed the newfangled technology of just basically a clearer sound, more resolution, and digital audio. And that's it, really. Like, VHS is alright, it just has a low resolution. There's nothing wrong with VHS tape itself, the magnetic tape. There's nothing wrong with that medium. It's just at the time that it was developed, it only had 240 lines of resolution, which was crap for capturing a 35mm negative. Laserdisc, however, basically doubled that height and was able to capture 480 interlaced or 576 progressive lines of capture, which was able to hold enough, you know, from the 35mm negative to, when it was projected, be respectful. And when Laserdisc came out, it was touted as like being crystal clear picture, sharp precision sound. But for me, totally out of my league. £1,200 a player. The films were 30 quid themselves. Like, that was just for the super rich. Way out of my system. And I just stuck with VHS at the time. But we'll talk about more Laserdisc in the next video. DVDs, I collected a massive amount of, got really hooked on them, and even bought like projectors, speakers, which I still have today, massive, you know, floor standing ones to replicate the cinema, and would get like a cheapy projector and hook up the DVD player. And I remember spending like 3 years of my life just watching DVDs on a wall, you know, like 10 feet high, like, and that was my normal way of watching films. And then of course the shift to high definition happened, where a lot of these films, like, you know, really connecting with, even still at home now in my home theater, you know, my home theater, still really connecting with them. But then, yeah, Blu-ray started to come out, so I again took all my DVDs and went and sold them to buy the first PS3. And I really do regret selling all my VHSs and all my DVDs. I started getting Blu-rays back in like 2005, I think it was, when the PS3 launched, and I haven't sold any of those. So all my Blu-rays are like the original ones, but like 4Ks come out, you know. But what I've learned is modern, like, so we got DVD, we've got Blu-ray, we've got 4K. They're all digital mediums. No matter how you cut it, it's a digital encoded on the disc. It's not like CD, where it's going to get converted to analog, you know, for your speakers. It's all a pure digital stuff. VHS, Laserdisc, and reel-to-reel, like watching 16mm, 8mm, whatever projected, is a complete analog system. In the next video, I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about analog versus digital, because there really is a massive difference for watching a film in an analog state, like going to the cinema and watching it on 35mm, as opposed to going to the cinema and watching it on digital, or like Blu-ray, 4K, or DVD. But anyway, that's basically the history for me of films and why they mean so much to me. And in the next video, I want to talk about my preferred film format. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.